Hello and welcome to Victims of Climate Change Episode 2, where we will be talking about Ovibos moscatus, or the muskox. Muskoxen, since being hunted out of existence in Europe, Asia, and Alaska in the early 1900s, have since been reintroduced to all the previously mentioned locations in arguably successful rewilding programs. Now, these rewilding programs kind of hinge on the fact that where these majestic beasts are reintroduced to are ideal locations for them to live in, as was the case before they were hunted to extinction there. With climate change, some scientists wonder if the above-mentioned locations they lived in before, as well as northern Canada and Greenland, where these species have lived continuously for millions of years, is changing for the worse. In this episode, like in the last one in this series, we're going to discuss 3 possible threats that not a lot of people know about that might threaten our big fuzzy friends here. Sorry, bud. First up, let's talk about threats from other animals. And while grizzly bears are moving further northward into the tundra home of the muskox in North America, a more prevalent threat is much smaller and deadlier. This is umi. Umi is a lung-dwelling nematode whose full name is that monstrosity below it. Umi is an adult and a parasite that lives within the lungs, as the name suggests, of the muskox Fred. Fred is slowly dying of respiration issues that Umi is causing. Umi couldn't care less though, and instead uses this opportunity to give birth to Umi Jr., but at least Umi Jr. is not a problem yet. As Fred poops his last poop before getting eaten by Gregory the grizzly bear, who had no problem catching poor old Fred, who could barely breathe, much less escape Gregory, his last poop contains Umi Jr., because the slippery nematode found its way up Fred's lungs and down his digestive system. Pooped out, he gets ingested by Cornelius the slug that acts as an intermediate host, so like an incubator for Umi Jr., which helps him to develop, grow up, and become just as problematic and parasitic as his late father Umi. Cornelius, living in the shrubs that are the favorite food of the muskox, gets eaten by Mandy the muskox, and the cycle continues. Due to warming temperatures, this incubation process that happens within slugs is faster and more likely to happen, which means more muskoxen will get Umi's descendants, which means more muskoxen will die. Moving on, we got more frequent weather extremes in a warming environment. Much like the lemmings from last episode, the muskoxen depend on stable amounts of snowfall, not too much and not too little. With weather extremes being more common due to climate change, the muskox periodically needs to either dig through a lot of snow, struggle without any snow, which is the only source of water for them in the tundra, or, worst of all, have to deal with rain and snow events. Rain most commonly occurs after snow during warmer days, where it percolates through the snow layer and freezes the forage plants that the muskoxen depend on. So now, dig through the snow as they might, the only thing waiting for them underneath it all is frozen food, which they can't eat. Last but not least, speaking of weather events, we have to cover the 2011 event where 52 muskoxen died in a natural disaster that happened in Alaska. This disaster in particular was a storm surge in the Arctic region, in which heavy winds piled up water covered in plates of 50-centimeter thick sea ice and made it crash into a herd of muskoxen, killing almost all of them. The survivors were barely walking. So if you thought storm surges at the mid-latitudes were bad, welcome to the Arctic, where not only the water is trying to drown you, but ice plates are trying to pierce you to death as well. Now, if you want to know more on why we're expecting storm surges to be more problematic with sea level rise caused by climate change, check out this video on Arctic amplification, a process by which the Arctic warms faster than the rest of the world. Check out this video if you want to also learn about the fate of the Arctic fox and how it too has an uncertain future in a changing world. Like and subscribe, and thank you for watching. Till next time.